So hi everyone, this is Liz here. I'm here with Andresa, and she is a real estate investor, started a business about 4 years ago, good friend of mine, but more importantly, I really wanted to have her on this week and do a post this week about scaling your business because it's the end of the year. We're getting ready for 2017.
Right.
We're all kind of excited, and hopefully you
Can't
hopefully you have some goal setting time put aside, or we've already done some goal setting. But where my head's at, and where our business head, where we continually ask ourselves is, how do we scale the business, right? How do you grow? And Andresa's done an amazing job at that. So I wanted to ask her a little bit about. Andresa has really a unique story because she came to this country in 2008. Okay, so she started with nothing, came from Brazil, and she can share that a little bit.
Yeah.
Why did you come again?
Well, my first goal was is an international exchange cultural program. The goal was to stay here for 1 year, learn and improve my English, and go back. That was it.
That's it.
However, within 6 months, I started my master's degree in business communication, so things changed completely from that day on.
And when did you start investing in real estate? Because what I want to ask Andresa today is she's gone from nothing to doing 11 projects simultaneously and
Right.
getting making a lot happen. And her focus is flipping, and she also does rental property. So that's scaling within a few years. So
Totally.
So when did you start your business and investing?
Well, so everything changed when I started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. I asked my manager at that time, I did door-to-door sales, and I asked him for a book to learn more about sales. He said, no way, I'm going to give that to you. You're going to read Rich Dad Poor Dad and think about entrepreneurship and all of that. I had no idea what he was talking about, but that was a game change for me. The first step that we did, my husband and I did, was to invest on our mindset. We were not prepared. We were 9 to 5. We had 9 to 5 jobs and did not have the right mindset to start our own business, or we didn't know how would that really look like.
So when did you do that? You came from 2000. You came over 2008 from Brazil.
Yes.
You just wanted to have a cultural experience.
Yeah.
So when did you do the mindset
That
stuff?
started in 2011.
Okay.
And it took 6 months for him and I to pull the trigger and buy our first property.
6 months. You hearing
Yeah.
that?
Right now we look back and say, oh my gosh, it took 6 months to pull the trigger.
Why did it take that long?
We wanted to feel comfortable with that. We analyzed the market to the teeth, and we had our finances in place. We want to make sure we were comfortable with that investment. For us, buying a house was our biggest investment.
Yeah,
At
big deal.
At that point. I know that some people go through their entire lives without doing that. So for us, it was very important for us to put our savings and everything that we had into an investment that we felt comfortable with.
Yeah.
So we saw tons of houses, and I mean it. We analyzed a lot on paper. We saw a lot.
With the goal to flip, right? That was your initial goal.
To flip the house.
Okay.
We ended up buying a property actually for us to live in. That we flipped it. We rehab it, but we still hold that property right now as a rental.
Okay.
It was an amazing project. We like the location, the appreciation, and everything else. So we still keep that house. But for us, the investment on our knowledge and mindset avoided a lot of mistakes that we're gonna make down the road. A very clear example on our first project was that once we improved the value of that property, we applied for a HELOC. However, the appraisal came in very low. And we actually dispute that. I did a marketing analysis and sent it to the bank, and because of that, the amount was increased $30,000. If I didn't know how to do the market analysis, I wouldn't have gotten that part. So right off the bat, having the knowledge, it allows us to go. However, I want to make a very important point over here. Knowledge is good, but if you didn't pull the trigger, it's just the knowledge without the action does not move you forward. So at some point,
you gotta
take the action.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then you fast forward, and Andresa's been able to, she wholesales properties. She sold a few properties this year, and she's got 5 simultaneously going on, right? So that's in flipping, it's a big deal, and she's been doing this for a few years. So again, taking 6 months to do their first project that's still a rental for them, to moving to 11 projects in just a few years. Like what do people need to do or think, or how do they need to be in order to get them? Maybe they've done their first deal, you have your first rental, you have your first flip, or you've done a couple, but your thought is, okay, for 2017, how do I really expand? How do I really, make this even bigger than it is today? I don't want to expand 10%.
Right.
I want to grow double, triple, and that's what Andres has been able to do in just a short few years. So what do people need to do? Like, what are a few tips you can give them as they get ready for 2017?
I think the first thing to know is like where you want to get. You need to know your goals. For some folks out there, it's totally fine to do 1 flip or 2 flips a year.
And that's what they do. And that's
Absolutely.
totally cool, but you need to know your goals.
Exactly. So if that's your goal, cool. If your goal is to just scale to the point that you have multiple, even like 5, our next year is going to be a different number, you need to have a game plan. And you need to understand that you cannot do it on your own. It is just not possible. So our first year we did 1. The second year we did 2. And then you start doing multiple at the same time. So scale takes a little bit of time.
Sure.
And
especially at the beginning.
Especially at the beginning.
Things tend to sometimes accelerate.
I needed to, the second year, I needed to feel how it feels to run 2 at the same time. It was challenging, right? And then we go to 3 to 4 at the same time. And then when you get to the point that you have like 5 at the same time, 2 is too comfortable.
Well, I think that's a really good point. So the tip there too is that when you can't sometimes run before you walk.
Yeah.
But you have to also be aware that you're not thinking too small.
Totally.
It's a balance, right?
Totally.
I mean,
Totally.
So we're not going to buy. I'm not a huge fan of someone not knowing anything about real estate investing and buying a 100-unit apartment building. I mean, there are people who say that. I'm not in that camp. That you should have some rental properties,
Right.
and at least know what the business is before you
Absolutely.
get into something. But if you're buying a duplex and you've been buying duplexes for 10 years, you might want to expand. It's time to scale.
Totally.
So you have to balance it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that was very important to real estate is a business, right? It's all about the numbers. I don't feel in love with any property. There's no, to me, it's very black and white right there. If the numbers don't make sense, it doesn't make sense. And period. I go to the next one.
Yep.
So having systems in place is also very essential for our company's
And
growth.
scaling. Is that
And
like second tip?
Totally. Second tip is systems in place.
Okay.
How do you do? For example, my husband still has a full-time job. However, he's part of some part of the business. So how can I communicate in a different way? For example, Dropbox. It's been essential for us, so we can access all our files, contracts, projects. And Slack, for example, is an app that we use to communicate with each other and separate things. But we can be in different locations, and our partners also can have access to those informations. So having a system in place, how things work. Because if you figure that out on your first project, if your scope of work is that like right there, and then your finishes are picked, you just duplicate that. You don't need to create the same thing for every single project.
Right. So it sounds like it's the technology, and even if you have to just take a notepad and just take notes on your first project or your second or your third project, and then you can say, okay, how can I automate this? How can I create a technology? Right? There's so much technology out there to help reduce the paper.
One thing that my husband and I usually do, for example, in our scope of work, if we miss something, right? And say, listen, we need to add this detail in our scope of work. We do it right away. We will forget about that.
Yeah.
What we learn from our mistakes, you gotta become some sort of like habit to, okay, next project, we need to make sure that this is in place so it doesn't happen. We make mistakes all the time, but gotta learn from them and move on. It's just part of the process.
So they need to have a goal, right? So as you're looking to scale your business and grow, having that end in mind is really important. So that might be 1, 3, 5 years. I tend to like to tell people that's almost, because 5 years is like, whoa, that's 5 years. But 1 year is like doable. It's 1 year, right?
Yeah.
So having that goal, like you said, having systems and systems, processes, the technology in place to support your business, because that's huge from a scaling perspective.
Totally.
You know, because you'll keep doing one project at a time if it's all scattered. But if it's systematized, it's like, you know, when McDonald's created, when Ray Kroc created McDonald's, he
Same
replicated the same thing, right?
Same thing.
So what's the third tip you'd have?
Third thing, I think that it's been incredible for us are the partnerships.
Okay.
Got to the point, a few years ago, I was the type of person that, okay, I will handle it. Give it to me. But you got to the point where you just scale to the point that you can't physically or mentally handle everything. And also knowing, like, what are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? And my partners are better in certain things with that I am, but I shine in other things. So how can I leverage my time and my skills? And having strong partnerships have allowed us to get our business to a completely different level. Easy? No, not easy. Not easy to find good partners.
Right.
Something that we always speak about is having the trust. Who are your partners? You just don't meet for coffee and get into a partnership right away.
You don't propose on the first date, right?
Exactly. It's like dating.
Most people don't.
I hope so.
And if they do, run very far.
Go away. It's like dating, right? You get to know them. Who are those people? There's a lot of things in for personal guarantees and that type of thing.
Big deal.
Their work ethic, track records. What do they do? What if they don't have any knowledge in real estate? What can they offer? Their time, their experience in finance, in other areas.
Or their financial backing, right?
Absolutely.
That's huge in this business.
Absolutely. So leverage that part has allowed us to do more, to scale and do more like solid partnerships. Because once that partnership it is in place, again, systems in place, we just duplicate that much more. So that would be my third tip.
I love it. Yeah. So going from, again, if you're doing 1 or 2 projects, and I know a lot of folks out there and in this business have done some projects. They flipped a house, they have some rentals. But again, it's always that question, like, how do I really move beyond that, right? How do I really get my business moving in a direction that I want to see it grow?
Yeah.
And so having that goal in mind and being really self-aware of that goal, right? And keeping it in front of you.
Write it down.
Not just your short-term goal, but like your future goals.
Write it down.
I would encourage you to do 1, 3, and 5 year goals, like now. You know, I just did it with my husband, and it was great. You know, and I'm sure, and Andresa has done the same. Number 2 is systems, processes, what technology. If you're going to scale a business, you got to have that in place. And 3 is partnerships. And there's a whole other topic we could probably take on, but getting into partnerships with the right people. So I hope this was of value. And 2017 is going to be an amazing year. And
super excited.
Just take that first step and keep taking action. And love to hear your thoughts and suggestions too. Like what are we missing? Any other tips on how to really go from, you know, doing that 1 project at a time to doing, you know, 5 at the same time and really scaling your business. So thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear your comments.
Thank you.